A luxury car breaks down, bringing traffic to a standstill and leaving a businessman furious and embarrassed. A young girl covered in grease offers to help, a worn-out notebook in her hands. When he starts the engine, he realizes it wasn't the car that needed fixing. If the story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching from. Now, on with the story. The noise started as a faint hiss, almost imperceptible over the sounds of the busy avenue. Robert Miller, 52, adjusted the knot of his Italian tie as he sped his imported luxury car through the streets of New York. He was late for a meeting with Japanese investors, and every minute lost represented millions in negotiations. The hiss grew louder. It morphed into a metallic grinding that made several heads turn. Then came the smoke, thick, white, and billowing from under the hood. The car died in the middle of the avenue. Traffic piled up behind him. A chorus of horns began to blare. Robert got out of the car, his face red, his hands trembling with restrained fury. People started pulling out their phones. Some were laughing, others were filming. The most arrogant executive in the auto industry, the man who had laid off 300 employees the month before to boost profits, was stranded in the middle of the street with a $3 million car that wouldn't run. Robert called for roadside assistance. A 2-hour wait. He slammed his hand on the hood, burned his fingers on the hot metal, and swore out loud. A group of students walked by, laughing. An old woman waved from a bus window. He had never felt so small, so ridiculous, so exposed. That's when she appeared. A small, wiry girl, her face smudged with grease, and her brown hair tied in 2 crooked pigtails. She wore a faded t-shirt 3 sizes too big for her, and a pair of jeans ripped at the knees. She was carrying an old yellowed notebook filled with scribbles and drawings. She stopped beside the car, observing the smoke with sharp, attentive eyes. "I can fix it," she said in a clear voice. Robert looked her up and down, 7 years old tops, dirty, poor, scrawny. He laughed, a dry, cruel sound. "You fix it, kid, go play with your dolls. This is a state-of-the-art German engine." "The alternator belt tensioner is loose," she replied. "The belt slipped, overheated the cooling system, and now the thermostat valve is stuck. If you don't fix it soon, you're going to blow the whole engine." The silence that followed was louder than the horns. Robert turned around slowly. How did a kid this size know what a thermostat valve was? "Who taught you that?" "My grandpa. He was a mechanic. He had a shop near here before he got sick. I spent my days with him since I was 4. He'd teach me while he worked. He said machines don't lie. They talk. You just have to know how to listen." Robert looked around. Dozens of people were watching. Some were still filming. The situation was already humiliating enough, but his curiosity was stronger than his pride. "All right, if you fix it, I'll pay you. $500. But if you can't, you clean my car for free for a whole month, every Saturday. Deal?" The girl didn't hesitate. "Deal." She placed her notebook on the ground and popped the hood. Smoke was still rising, but she didn't seem to mind. She stuck her small hands between the hot parts, touching, feeling, listening. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she opened them and nodded to herself. "I need a wrench, a piece of wire, and some lubricating oil." A woman on the sidewalk waved. "There's a garage on the corner. I'll go get them." The woman returned with the tools. The girl took the wrench, adjusted the tensioner with precise movements, used the wire to temporarily secure a loose part, and applied oil to strategic points. She worked in focused silence, ignoring the crowd's comments. It took her 15 minutes. When she was done, she wiped her hands on her own t-shirt. "You can start it now." Robert got in the car, turned the key, and the engine roared to life. No hiss, no smoke. Running perfectly. The crowd applauded. Someone shouted, "Genius!" Robert got out of the car, pulled his wallet from his pocket, and handed the girl $500. She took the money, folded it carefully, and tucked it into her jeans pocket. "What's your name?" "Claire. Claire Davis. I'm 7. "And your mother, where is she?" "Working. She's a cleaner. Works 3 jobs. She left at 5 this morning and won't be back until 9 tonight." Robert nodded slowly. Something about that answer bothered him deeply. He got in his car, waved through the window, and drove off. He went to his meeting, but he couldn't concentrate. The image of that small, dirty child fixing a $3 million engine with her calloused hands wouldn't leave his head. That night the video was everywhere. Over 2 million views, thousands of comments. The mechanic genius girl. CEO humiliated. By 7-year-old. Talent knows no zip code. Robert watched the video 10 times. Each time he felt his discomfort grow. The next day, his daughter, Megan, 17, walked into his office without knocking. She threw her phone on his desk. The video paused on the image of Claire with her grease-stained hands. "Did you see this, Dad?" "I saw it." "And what are you going to do about it?" Robert frowned. "Do? I already paid the girl. What else am I supposed to do?" Megan leaned over the desk, her eyes shining with controlled anger. "That girl is 7 years old and she fixes German engines. Do you know how many kids in this country have that kind of talent and die invisible because nobody cares? Do you know how many Claires are out there, mopping floors, collecting cans, with zero chance? And what do you want me to do, Megan? I'm not a social worker." "No. You're a man with enough money to change someone's life who chooses to do nothing. You're a man who lays off 300 people to increase your profits and sleeps just fine at night. That's enough." A heavy silence fell between them. Megan picked up her phone and left the office, slamming the door. Robert was left alone, staring at the computer screen, where the video of Claire was still playing on a loop. He turned off the monitor, but the image remained in his head. 3 days later, Robert was standing in front of a small house in the Bronx. The paint was peeling from the walls. The gate was crooked. He rang the bell and waited. A woman opened the door, thin, tired, with deep circles under her eyes and hands rough from work. She recognized him immediately. "You're the man?" "From the video," she said, without a hint of a smile. "I am. My name is Robert Miller. I came to talk about your daughter." The woman, Connie Davis, 38, crossed her arms. "Claire didn't do anything wrong. She just helped." "I know, and that's why I'm here." Connie stared at him for a long moment, then stepped back. "Come in." The house was small, clean, and organized with the care of someone who doesn't have much, but values every object. An old couch, but spotless. An old TV on a wooden crate. In the corner of the living room, a makeshift workbench with rusty tools and the notebook Claire had been carrying the day she fixed his car. Claire was sitting on the floor, taking apart a broken fan. When she saw Robert, her eyes widened, but she didn't get up. "Claire, go to your room," Connie said. The girl gathered the fan parts and left the room. Robert sat on the couch as Connie indicated. The woman remained standing, arms crossed. "What do you want?" Robert took a deep breath. "I can't stop thinking about your daughter, about what she did, about what she knows." Connie's face hardened. "And?" "Your daughter has a rare talent. She knows things that mechanics with 20 years of experience don't. I have resources, money, connections. I want to help." "Help how?" "I don't know yet, but I want to try." Connie sat in the chair across from the couch. She studied Robert in silence, calculating if she could trust him. "My father taught Claire everything she knows," Connie said. "He had a small shop just up the street. Claire was with him since she was 4, watching, asking questions, writing everything down in that notebook. My dad said he'd never seen anyone learn so fast. And him? He got sick 2 years ago, can't work anymore, the shop closed, and Claire was left with nowhere to practice. She fixes what she can around the neighborhood, fans, blenders, bikes. But it's not the same. She could be great. I know it. But I can't give her that." Robert felt something stir in parts of him that had been dormant for years. He thought of Megan, of everything she had. He thought of Claire, with the same talent, but trapped in a dead-end cycle. "Let me think of something, I'll see what I can do. Connie walked him to the door. Before he left, she grabbed his arm. "If you're just doing this because of the video, to clean up your image, don't bother. We don't want charity. We want respect." Robert looked at her. "It's not charity. It's because maybe I need this as much as she does." Connie let go of his arm. Robert left and got in his car. Before starting the engine, he glanced at the window where Claire was watching. She gave a shy wave. He waved back. Robert followed Connie into the living room where Claire was still on the floor with the disassembled fan. The girl looked up when he entered but said nothing. "Claire, put that away and go see your grandpa," Connie said. The girl gathered the parts and left, carrying her notebook. Robert heard her light footsteps down the hall. "Sit," Connie said, pointing to the couch. She remained standing, arms crossed. "Just say what you came here to do." Robert sat. "I watched the video about 10 times. Each time I'm more impressed. Your daughter has a rare talent, and He paused. "I had a daughter the same age as her when my son died. He was 8. He loved cars. When I saw Claire there in the middle of the street doing what she did—" "You felt sorry for her?" Connie interrupted. "No. I felt jealous, because your daughter has something my son will never have. Time, a chance, a future." Connie uncrossed her arms and sat down. For the first time, her face softened. "How did he die?" "Leukemia. 3 years of treatment. Nothing worked." Robert ran a hand over his face. "And now I see a kid with immense talent, fixing a fan on the living room floor. I could do something. I should do something. My father taught Claire everything she knows. He had a shop just up the street. Claire started going with him when she was 4. At first she just watched. But then she started asking about everything. One day she picked up a screwdriver and fixed a blender motor all by herself. She was 5. And your father?" "In the back room. He had a stroke 2 years ago. Can't walk right anymore. The shop closed. And Claire lost the only place where she could be herself. Let me help, not as charity, as an investment. Your daughter has the talent to go far, but she needs the infrastructure. And what do you get out of it? Maybe a chance to do something right." Connie studied him in silence. Then she nodded slowly. "All right, but with conditions. Claire keeps living here. She stays in the local public school. And anything you want to do, you run it by me first. Agreed?" "Agreed." Connie called for Claire. "Mr. Miller wants to help you. He wants to invest in your talent, but I need to know what you want." Claire blinked, surprised. "I want to fix things. I want to learn more. I want to have a shop like Grandpa's. I want people to see what I can do." "Then let's make it happen," Robert said. The following days were a whirlwind. Robert returned with a lawyer and an accountant. He offered $500,000 to renovate her grandfather's shop, turning it into an automotive training center. He proposed to pay for Claire's education at a private school, provide equipment, and hire specialized mechanics. In return, he only asked that Claire work at the shop on weekends. Connie read the contract 3 times. She had the lawyer explain every clause. In the end, she had one demand: the property would remain in the family's name. "Agreed," Robert said. The following Saturday, the renovation began. Construction workers tore down old walls, installed new electrical systems, and brought in equipment Connie had never seen before. Claire spent hours watching, asking questions, and writing everything down in her notebook. Robert visited the site every day. He talked with the workers, checked the progress, and always stopped to talk with Claire. Gradually, the initial distrust gave way to mutual respect. The girl showed him the drawings in her notebook, explaining future projects and improvements she wanted to make. Megan started coming with her father. She and Claire looked at each other with curiosity, 2 different worlds trying to understand each other. It was Megan who broke the ice, bringing a gift, a brand new set of tools still in the box. "My brother was supposed to get this for his 8th birthday, Megan said, "but he never got to use it. I think he'd like you to have it." Claire took the box with trembling hands. She opened it slowly. When she saw the new perfect tools, her eyes filled with tears. "I'll take good care of them, I promise." From that day on, the two became inseparable. Megan spent her Saturdays at the shop, learning basic mechanics from Claire. The 7-year-old taught the 17-year-old with patience, explaining every part, every tool. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. News of the renovation spread through the neighborhood. Some neighbors celebrated, happy to see Claire getting a chance. Others grumbled, envious. "$500,000 for a kid?" commented Mrs. Peterson, the neighbor. "That's not right. Something's fishy there." The gossip grew. They said Connie had sold her daughter, that Robert had ulterior motives, that it would all end badly. Connie tried to ignore it, but the words hurt. She saw the judgment in her neighbor's eyes, the envy disguised as concern. The tension escalated when Carl Davis, Connie's brother, showed up. 42, unemployed for 3 years, he had always been jealous of his father for preferring to teach Claire. When he heard about the money, Carl saw an opportunity. This money should be split with the family, he said, storming into the house one night. Dad was my father too, the shop should be mine too. You never cared about the shop when Dad was working, Connie shot back. You never helped, never showed any interest, and now you want a piece. Half the money, it's only fair. There is no half. The money is an investment in the shop. It's not an inheritance. Carl slammed his hand on the table. We'll see about that. I have rights, and I'm going to get them. He left, slamming the door. Connie was left trembling with anger and fear. Carl had always been like this, envious, lazy, always looking for the easy way out. And when he didn't get what he wanted, he made life hell for everyone else. On Monday, Carl showed up at the construction site with a lawyer. He claimed the shop was family property and demanded that the renovation be stopped until the ownership issue was resolved. The workers stopped, confused. When Robert arrived and saw Carl yelling at the workers, his face turned red. Who are you? I'm the son of the original owner of this shop, and you have no right to be here. I have a signed contract. A contract with my sister, not with me, and as the son of the deceased, I have rights to this property. Robert looked at the lawyer with Carl. The man was thin, with a cheap suit and the expression of someone who knew he was bluffing. Robert took out his phone and called his own lawyer. Fix this, now. But the damage was done. The work stopped. The construction crew left. And on the door of the shop, Carl posted a sign, Property in dispute, no trespassing. Claire saw the sign on her way home from school. She stood on the sidewalk, tears streaming down her face, her notebook clutched to her chest. Everything was falling apart. The shop that was supposed to be hers, the future she had started to dream of, the chance to be more than just the poor kid from the neighborhood. It was all slipping away. She ran home, went into her room, and threw herself on the bed, sobbing. Connie tried to comfort her but didn't know what to say. She was desperate herself. Carl could cause a lot of trouble. He knew people at City Hall, people who could complicate things even more. What if he managed to stop the renovation for months? What if he managed to block Robert's investment? That night, Connie tried to calm her daughter, but the words felt empty. Claire cried herself to sleep, her notebook still clutched to her chest, as if she were afraid someone would take that from her too. Robert, in his luxury apartment, looked out at the city lights. He had faced tough negotiations, powerful adversaries, crises that threatened to destroy his company. But for the first time in years, he felt that something truly important was at stake. It wasn't money. It wasn't business. It was a child's chance at a future, a chance to do something that really mattered, and he wasn't going to let some greedy man destroy that. He wasn't going to let Claire lose this opportunity. He wasn't going to let another talented child be swallowed up by a lack of chances. He picked up the phone and called his lawyer again. They talked for almost 2 hours. There were ways to solve this, legal ways, but they would take time, and time was something Claire didn't have to spare. But as Robert planned his next move, he didn't know that Carl had allies, influential people, and that the fight for the shop was just the beginning of something much bigger and more dangerous. Carl wasn't alone. There were other people interested in stopping this project, people who saw Claire's rise as a threat to their own interests, and they were willing to do anything to stop it. The following week was a nightmare. Carl not only blocked the construction but also started a smear campaign. He spread rumors around the neighborhood that Robert was using Claire as false advertising for his company, that it was all a marketing stunt, that soon the girl would be forgotten and the shop closed. The gossip reached the ears of journalists. A reporter from a tabloid TV show appeared at Connie's door with cameras and microphones, asking invasive questions. Is it true you sold your daughter to a rich businessman? How much did you get? Is Claire being exploited? Connie slammed the door in the woman's face, but the damage was done. The story aired that night. Maliciously edited, showing only the questions without the answers, it made it seem like Connie had something to hide. The phone didn't stop ringing. Neighbors knocked on the door. the street filled with curious onlookers. Claire stopped going to school. She was afraid of the comments, the stares, the questions. She spent her days locked in her room, looking at her notebook, drawing projects she knew would never be built. The dream had lasted only 2 weeks. Now it was over. Robert tried to speed up the legal process, but Carl's lawyer managed to postpone the hearings, claiming he needed more time to gather documents. In reality, he was just stalling, buying time for Carl to cause more damage. It was Megan who discovered the truth. She was at school when she overheard 2 classmates talking about Claire's situation. One of them mentioned that his father worked at City Hall and that Carl had contacts there, that he was trying to get a permanent stop work order on the shop, citing zoning violations. Megan ran to tell her father. Robert was furious. He knew this kind of dirty game. He had faced similar situations in the business world, but this time was different. This time, it involved a child. An innocent child who just wanted to fix things. He scheduled a meeting with his lawyer and a private investigator. He needed proof that Carl was acting in bad faith. He needed something he could use to neutralize the threat. The investigator got to work. He discovered that Carl owed money to a lot of people. Loan sharks, former employers, even his own sister. He also found that Carl had a record of petty fraud, small scams that never went anywhere because the victims gave up on pressing charges. But the most interesting discovery came 3 days later. Carl wasn't acting alone. An automotive businessman was financing the whole operation. A direct competitor of Robert's, a man named Sergio Taylor, owner of a chain of auto repair shops in the area. Taylor saw Robert's project as a threat. A shop run by a child prodigy with state-of-the-art equipment and the backing of a famous businessman could steal clients from his locations, so he decided to act before the project took off. He found Carl through acquaintances at City Hall, offered him money in exchange for trouble, and Carl accepted without a second thought. When Robert found out, he felt his anger boil over. This wasn't just business, it was cruelty. Using a child as a pawn in a commercial dispute was too low, even for the dirtiest market standards. He called an emergency meeting with his legal team. He presented the evidence the investigator had gathered, bank records showing transfers from Taylor to Carl, recordings of phone conversations where the two discussed strategies to sabotage the renovation, testimonies from city employees who had been pressured to help. "I want this resolved this week," Robert said. "I don't care how. I want Carl out of the way, and I want Taylor paying for what he did." The lawyer nodded. "We can file a lawsuit for defamation and tortious interference. With this evidence, we have a real chance of winning quickly. Do it, and send a copy to everything to Taylor. I want him to know that I know what he did." Meanwhile, Connie was at her breaking point. The pressure was too much. The neighbors talked behind her back. The bills kept coming. And Claire, her strong, brave girl, was fading day by day, losing the sparkle in her eyes, putting her notebook aside. One Thursday afternoon, Connie sat beside her daughter on the bed. Claire was curled up, hugging a pillow, her eyes red from crying. "Mom, I ruined everything," she said, her voice broken. "If I hadn't fixed that car, none of this would have happened. We'd be living our normal life. Uncle Carl wouldn't be fighting with us. The neighbors wouldn't be talking." Connie took her daughter's face in her hands. "Look at me. You didn't ruin anything. You have a gift, a talent that your grandpa saw and that I see every day. And some people are scared of that. People who don't want you to grow, who don't want you to have a chance. But you know what your grandpa always said? Don't let anyone dim your light, Claire. Don't let the world make you small." "But it hurts, Mom. It hurts so much." "I know, sweetie, I know, but we don't give up. We've never given up, and we're not going to start now." That same afternoon, Robert showed up at Connie's house. He had news. The lawyer had filed the lawsuit against Carl and Taylor. The judge had accepted the evidence and scheduled a hearing for the following week. There was a good chance the stop work order would be lifted and the construction could resume. But there was more. Robert had made a decision. He was going to use his influence in the media to tell the whole story. Not the distorted version that had been shown, but the truth. The story of a talented girl being sabotaged by greed and envy. "I don't want Claire exposed any more than she already has been," Connie said, hesitant. "She won't be. We'll do it differently. We'll show her work. We'll show what she's capable of. We'll let her talent speak for itself." And that's what they did. Robert invited serious journalists, not tabloid reporters. He showed them the shop, the plans, Claire's drawings. He explained the project, the investment, the goals, and then he asked Claire to demonstrate her knowledge. The girl was nervous. Her hands trembled as she picked up the first tool. But as soon as she started working, something changed. She focused. She disassembled a motorcycle engine in front of the cameras, explained each part, identified a problem no one had noticed, and fixed it in 15 minutes. The journalists were impressed. The tone of their questions changed, from accusatory to admiring. "How did you learn all this? What do you want to do in the future?" "What's your dream?" Claire answered with sincerity. She talked about her grandpa, the shop, the notebook full of drawings. She talked about her desire to teach other kids, to show that talent has no social class, and she talked about her fear of losing everything before she even got started. The story aired 2 days later. This time, it was different. They showed the truth. The story of a child prodigy facing the envy and greed of adults who should have known better. The reaction was immediate. Hundreds of comments supporting Claire, people offering help, mechanics from all over the country sending messages of encouragement. Even some public figures spoke out, criticizing Carl and Taylor, demanding justice for the girl. Taylor panicked. His company started receiving criticism on social media. Clients cancelled contracts, employees quit. In less than a week, his reputation was destroyed. He tried to defend himself, claiming it was all lies, that he had never done anything against Claire. But the evidence said otherwise, and the more he denied it, the worse it got. Carl, seeing that he had lost his support, tried to back down. He sent a message to Connie saying he was willing to negotiate, that maybe he had overreacted, that they could reach an agreement, but it was too late. The lawsuit was in motion, and Robert wasn't interested in negotiating with someone who had tried to destroy a 7-year-old's dream. The hearing took place on a cold July morning. The judge reviewed the evidence, heard the arguments, and gave his decision. The stop work order was lifted. Carl was fined for malicious prosecution, and Taylor was ordered to pay a hefty sum for defamation and tortious interference. When Connie got the news, she cried, not from sadness, but from relief. Finally, after weeks of nightmare, there was justice. Claire, upon hearing the decision, picked up the notebook she had set aside and started drawing again. Her projects, her ideas, her dreams. It all came back. The light in her eyes returned. And for the first time in a long time, she smiled. But the battle wasn't over. There were still obstacles ahead, and the biggest one was just beginning to reveal itself. The work resumed on Monday. The construction crew returned, energized. The shop began to take shape. New walls, equipment being installed, the space transforming into the training center Robert had promised. Claire spent every afternoon there, observing every detail. She had gone back to school, but now her classmates treated her differently, some with admiration, others with envy. But she learned to ignore it. 3 weeks later, a new problem. An imported piece of equipment arrived damaged. It was the third problem in 2 weeks. First, tools with missing parts. Then, substandard materials. Now, a $200,000 piece of equipment, useless. "This is no coincidence," the investigator said. "Someone is sabotaging the deliveries." Robert increased security. He hired guards, installed cameras. But the problems continued. Small things. A leak, faulty electrical wiring, missing documents. Connie noticed strange things too. Her car was vandalized. The electricity bill came in 3 times higher than usual, and she started getting anonymous calls in the middle of the night. "They're trying to scare us," she told Robert. "They want us to give up." "And are you going to?" Connie looked at Claire. The girl shook her head firmly. "We're not, but I need to know you're with us." Robert leaned in. "I'm not backing down." The investigation continued. The investigator traced the deliveries to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. He discovered that someone was paying employees to swap good parts for bad ones, to delay shipments. But the money trail led to an untraceable offshore account. It was Megan who had the idea. "Dad, what if we do this differently? Instead of trying to find out who's doing this, we change the game. We speed things up so much they can't keep up." "What do you mean?" "The construction is scheduled to finish in 6 months, right? What if we finish it in 2? We bring in more workers, work in shifts, do everything at once. They won't have time to sabotage everything." It was risky, more expensive, but it made sense. Robert doubled the crew. The work began day and night. The noise annoyed some neighbors, but most were supportive. They saw that something special was being built. Claire helped where she could. She knew every corner of that shop, every quirk of the land. She showed the workers where there were leaks, where the floor was weaker, where the old wiring still worked. The men listened to her with respect. One of them, John, approached Robert. "Boss, this kid is special. I've never seen anything like it. She points out a problem before we even see it." Robert smiled. "That's why we're doing all this." Claire's grandfather, who had improved a bit with physical therapy, wanted to see the construction. Connie took him in a wheelchair. The old man looked at what was being built, and tears streamed down his face. He tried to speak, but the words came out jumbled, hard to understand. Claire knelt beside him. "I know, Grandpa. You're proud. I am too. And when it's done, you'll see. It'll be just the way you dreamed." The old man squeezed her hand tightly, and in that moment, Robert saw 3 generations connected by love and purpose. He saw the past, present, and future meeting in that unfinished building. 2 months later, against all odds, the construction was finished. The shop was ready, state-of-the-art equipment installed, a training area organized, an office for administration. And in the center, on a special wall, Claire's notebook was framed. The grand opening was set for a Saturday. Invitations were sent. Journalists confirmed their attendance. Local officials, too. Everything was perfect, or almost. The day before, Connie received a letter. No return address. A single sentence. "You don't know who you're messing with. There's still time to back out." She showed it to Robert. He read it and tore it to pieces. "We're not backing down." The opening took place under a blue sky. Hundreds of people showed up. Neighbors, supporters, curious onlookers. Claire was nervous, wearing a new outfit Megan had bought her. A custom-made mechanic's jumpsuit, with her name embroidered on the pocket. Robert gave an emotional speech. He talked about second chances, about believing in unlikely talents, about how a child had changed his life. Connie spoke about her father, about the legacy he left, about how happy she was to see his dream come true. And then it was Claire's turn. She walked to the microphone, too small to reach it without a stool. She looked at the crowd. So many people, so many eyes on her. "My grandpa always said that machines don't lie. They tell the truth. If you listen carefully, they tell you what's wrong. And I learned to listen. I learned that it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter who you are. What matters is what you do with what you have. And I have this." She held up her hands, showing her calloused palms. "I have hands that know how to work. And now, I have a place to work. And I'm going to use it to help other people, to teach, to show that everyone deserves a chance." The crowd erupted in applause. Some people were crying. Robert looked at Megan, who also had tears in her eyes. The shop opened its doors. People walked in, amazed by the equipment, by the organization. Claire gave demonstrations, showed how the tools worked, explained future projects. Old mechanics from the neighborhood came to check it out and left impressed. Mothers brought their daughters, pointing to Claire, saying, "You can do that too." But in the middle of the celebration, a man approached. Robert, short, chubby, with a fake smile and calculating eyes. "Mr. Miller, what a beautiful project. Truly admirable." "Thank you, and you are?" "Anthony Fisher. I'm the city councilman for this district, and I also own some property around here." Robert didn't like his tone. There was something false in his introduction, something threatening. "Pleasure to meet you. Is there something I can help you with?" Actually, I came to offer my help. You see, this area has been going through some zoning changes. There are urban development plans, and this shop, as beautiful as it is, might face some legal problems in the near future, unless, of course, we come to an understanding. Robert understood immediately. Blackmail. He knew this game well. He'd seen this kind of thing before in the business world, but he never imagined someone would have the nerve to do it here now on opening day, in front of hundreds of people. What kind of understanding? A partnership. I know the right people. I can fast-track permits, licenses, avoid future problems. In return, I'd come in as an investment partner, nothing too big, let's say 30% of the project. And if I refuse? Anthony's smile grew colder. Then I'm afraid you'll face a lot of difficulties. Inspections, lawsuits, complaints from neighbors. You know how it is. Bureaucracy can be very complicated when you don't have the right friends. Robert took a step forward, invading Anthony's personal space. Mr. Fisher, I don't know who you think I am, but I don't give in to blackmail. I never have, and I'm not about to start now. Take your proposal and get out of here. And if you try anything against this shop, against Claire or against her family, you will regret it. I have the best lawyers in the country. Anthony's face hardened. The smile vanished completely. Watch your words, Mr. Miller. In this city, I have a lot of power, a lot of friends in high places, and you're the newcomers here. You're stepping on ground you don't know. And I have a lot of money, and a lot of experience dealing with people like you, so let's see who gets tired first. But I'm warning you, I don't get tired easily, especially when I'm protecting something that matters. Anthony took a step back, adjusting his jacket with his pudgy hands. Very well. You had your chance to do this the easy way. Now you'll have to do it the hard way, and I guarantee you will regret this arrogance. He turned and left, pushing his way through the crowd without an apology. Robert stood there, his hands clenched into fists, his jaw tight. Connie had seen the conversation from a distance and came over. What was that? Trouble. Big trouble. Who was he? Anthony Fisher, city councilman, the person behind all our problems. Connie put a hand to her mouth. What does he want? Money, power, control. But he's not going to get it. What if he really has power? Robert looked at Claire, showing tools to other children. Her face lit up. He looked at her grandfather in his wheelchair, watching his granddaughter with pride. Then we fight, until we win. Because this isn't just a shop, it's her future. But even as he said those words, Robert knew the battle was just beginning. Anthony Fisher wasn't like Carl or Taylor. He had real power, real connections, and he had just made it clear that he was willing to use them. The first week after the opening was quiet. The shop ran perfectly. Customers started coming in, bringing their cars for maintenance. Claire worked on weekends, always supervised by the experienced mechanics Robert had hired. She diagnosed problems with frightening accuracy. The customers left impressed. But on the Monday of the second week, the problems began. City inspectors were sent to the shop. They claimed anonymous complaints of code violations. They spent 3 hours measuring, photographing, taking notes. In the end, they issued 5 citations for alleged building code infractions. Robert reviewed the citations with his lawyer. This is absurd. The construction was approved. We have all the permits. These are technicalities. They're claiming the access ramp has an improper incline, that there's a lack of emergency signage, that the ventilation system is not up to code. And is it? No, everything was done to spec, but they'll demand additional inspections, technical reports, extra paperwork. They'll drag this out for months if we let them. Anthony Fisher, definitely. He has friends at City Hall. He's using the government machine to apply pressure. Robert clenched his fists. This kind of abuse of power infuriated him, but he had to stay calm. Reacting with anger would only give Anthony more ammunition. What do we do? We hire the best engineers in the city. We get independent reports proving everything is correct, and we file a lawsuit against the city for abuse of authority. That's what they did, but while the reports were being prepared, the shop was forced to stop serving customers. The citation demanded an immediate suspension of activities until the alleged infractions were resolved. Claire was devastated. She had just started. She had appointments booked, projects planned, and now everything was on hold again. She locked herself in her room, refusing to come out, to eat, to talk to anyone. Connie was desperate. She was so happy, so excited, and now she's shut down again. I don't know what to do. It was Megan who had an idea. She knocked on Claire's bedroom door and walked in without waiting for an answer. The girl was lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling. "Claire, I need your help." The girl didn't respond. "It's my car. It's making a weird noise. No one can figure out what it is, and I thought, maybe you could take a look." Claire turned her head. "The shop's closed." "I know, but you don't need a fire shop to diagnose a problem, do you? You just need to listen, and you're the best at that." Claire was silent for a moment. Then she sat up. "Where's the car?" "Out front." The two went downstairs. Megan's car, a brand new sedan, was parked in front of the house. Claire popped the hood and asked Megan to start the engine. The noise began, an irregular metallic grinding coming from somewhere in the transmission system. Claire closed her eyes. She listened. She placed her hand on different parts of the engine, feeling the vibrations. After 3 minutes, she nodded. "It's the transmission bearing. It's starting to wear out. It's not urgent, but in a couple of months you'll need to replace it." Megan's jaw dropped. "How do you know that?" "The sound, the vibration. It's different when it's a bearing. It has a pattern." Claire looked at Megan. "Why did you do this? The noise is real, but you didn't seem worried." Megan smiled. "Because I needed to show you something. They can close the shop. They can put 1,000 obstacles in our way, but they can't take away what you have up here." She tapped Claire's head. "And in here?" She touched her chest. "Your talent doesn't need walls. It doesn't need expensive equipment. It's in you. It always will be." Claire felt tears welling up. Megan hugged her, and for the first time in days, the girl felt that maybe things could be okay. But the problems continued. The following week, the shop's energy bill came in 10 times higher than usual. When Connie questioned it, they said they had found an error in the meter and were billing retroactively. The bill was for almost $20,000. Robert paid it but requested an independent audit. They discovered the meter had been tampered with. Someone had rigged it to make it look like the shop was consuming far more energy than it actually was. "This is a crime," the lawyer said. "We can sue." "Do it, but be discreet. I don't want Claire to know about everything that's happening. She's suffered enough." However, it was impossible to hide everything. The neighbors started getting visits, people claiming to be from the city, asking questions about noise, about traffic, about the shop. Some neighbors, influenced by the questions, started to complain. They said the car traffic on the street had increased, that the noise was a nuisance. Mrs. Peterson, the neighbor who always had something negative to say, was the worst. She gathered signatures for a petition demanding the permanent closure of the shop. She got 30 signatures, most from people who didn't even live on the street. When Connie found out, she went to confront Mrs. Peterson. "Why are you doing this? The shop isn't bothering anyone. It's been closed for weeks." "Yes, it is. This kind of thing doesn't belong here. This is a residential neighborhood, not a place for a garage, especially one run by a kid. You're just jealous, aren't you? Jealous because my daughter is getting a chance that no one in your family ever had." Mrs. Peterson turned red. "Jealous? Of some ghetto kid who thinks she's smart? Your daughter is nothing but a cocky little brat, and you're an irresponsible mother who sold her daughter to some rich guy." Connie raised her hand, ready to slap the woman across the face, but Claire appeared, grabbing her mother's arm. "No, Mum. She's not worth it." Connie lowered her hand, trembling. Mrs. Peterson went back inside her house. Mother and daughter walked home in silence. But Claire felt something burning inside her. It wasn't sadness. It was determination. The technical reports were ready 2 weeks later. They proved that the shop was completely up to code. There were no irregularities. The lawyer filed an administrative appeal and a lawsuit against the city. The judge reviewed the case and issued an injunction suspending the citations. The shop could reopen immediately. It was a victory. But it came at a high cost. Robert spent nearly $100,000 on lawyers, engineers, and reports. "It doesn't matter," he told Connie. "The important thing is that you're protected." But Connie knew this was far from over. Anthony Fisher wasn't the type to give up easily, and she was right. The shop reopened, the customers returned. Claire got back to work. But 3 days later, during the night, someone broke into the shop. They didn't steal anything. They just destroyed. They smashed equipment, tore up documents, spray-painted threatening messages on the walls. "Get out while you can. You've been warned." When Connie saw it in the morning, she broke down. She sat on the floor of the destroyed shop and cried. Everything they had fought for, all the sacrifice, was there in pieces. Claire arrived minutes later. She saw her mother crying, she saw the destruction, and something inside her snapped. Not from sadness, from rage. Pure, burning rage. She grabbed a broom and started cleaning. She picked up the broken equipment and sorted it. She took the torn documents and tried to piece them together. "Claire, stop," Connie said. "It's no use." "Yes, it is," the girl replied, her voice firm. "They want us to give up. They want us to feel small. But I'm not small, and I'm not giving up." Robert arrived half an hour later. When he saw the scene, his face went white with fury. He called the investigator, the lawyer, the security company. He wanted cameras. He wanted 24-hour surveillance. He wanted total protection. But more importantly, he wanted justice. "This has gone too far," he told Connie. "I'm done playing nice. I'm going after Anthony Fisher with everything I have. And he's going to pay dearly for this." The investigator worked quickly. He analyzed security footage from nearby streets. He managed to identify a car speeding away from the shop shortly before the break-in. He traced the license plate. The car belonged to a city employee, a man who worked directly for Anthony Fisher. With this information, Robert went straight to the police station. He filed a report. He presented the evidence. He demanded an investigation. But he knew it would take time, and time was something Claire didn't have to spare. She was standing firm now, determined, but how long could she hold on? How long could she be strong? That night, Claire sat on her bed with her notebook in her lap. She looked at the old drawings, at the projects she had made with her grandpa, and she made a decision. She wasn't going to wait for the adults to solve everything. She was going to do something, something that would show everyone who she really was. She started to draw. A new project. Something special. Something that would change everything. The project Claire began to draw was ambitious. She wanted to create an educational engine, a model engine that could be taken apart, with each piece numbered and explained, that could be used to teach mechanics to children. Something simple, safe, but that demonstrated the basic principles of how a car works. She worked on the project for 2 weeks. She drew during class late at night whenever she had a free moment. Megan helped her with research, looking up information on child education, safety standards, and suitable materials. When the project was finished, Claire showed it to Robert. He was blown away. The design was technical, precise, detailed. It showed every component, every function, how everything connected, and there were notes on how to use it in schools, in community workshops, in educational programs. "This is brilliant," Robert said. "Have you thought about patenting it?" Claire blinked. "What's patenting?" "It's registering the idea as yours, protecting it, so no one can steal it and use it without your permission. You can do that. You can and you should. This project is worth a lot." Robert put his legal team to work on the patent application. Meanwhile, he also started talking to manufacturers. He wanted to turn Claire's drawing into a reality. He wanted to produce the educational engine and distribute it to public schools. But when Anthony Fisher heard about the project through his contacts at City Hall, he saw another opportunity to cause trouble. He contacted business owners in the education sector, friends of his, and convinced them that this project was a threat, that a child couldn't hold a patent for something so important, that there were legal and ethical issues that needed to be discussed. The business owners, influenced by Anthony, started a campaign on social media. They questioned the authenticity of the project. They said a 7-year-old couldn't have created something so complex, that Robert was using Claire as a front, that the whole thing was a fraud. The accusations gained traction. Journalists started asking questions. TV shows debated the issue. There were those who defended Claire, But there were also many skeptics. "It's not possible she did this alone," said an expert on a late-night show. "It's too technically sophisticated for a child." Connie was furious when she saw it. "They don't know my daughter. They don't know what she's capable of." "Then let's show them," Robert said. "We'll hold a public demonstration. Claire will present the project live, answer technical questions, and prove that her knowledge is real." The demonstration was scheduled for a Saturday in an auditorium at the local university. Robert invited engineers, professors, and journalists. He wanted experts present to attest to the legitimacy of Claire's knowledge. On the day of the event, the auditorium was packed. Over 300 people. Claire was nervous, wearing the jumpsuit with her name embroidered on it, carrying her notebook under her arm. Robert was by her side, with Connie and Megan in the front row. Claire walked onto the stage. An engine was mounted on a workbench along with tools and her drawings projected on a screen. She looked out at the audience. So many faces, so many skeptical eyes. She took a deep breath and began. She explained the concept of the educational engine. She talked about each part, about how she had considered safety, durability, and ease of teaching. As she spoke, she disassembled the engine, showing each component and explaining its function. The engineers in the audience asked technical questions. Questions about torque, efficiency, materials. Claire answered everything with confidence. It wasn't memorized. She understood it, deeply. A university mechanics professor, Dr. Henry Scott, 58, raised his hand. "How did you calculate the ideal compression ratio for this model?" Claire picked up her notebook. She showed her calculations, all done by hand. "I use this formula here. My grandpa taught it to me when I was 6. He said it's the foundation of everything." Dr. Scott examined the calculations. They were correct. He nodded, impressed. "Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable." The demonstration lasted 2 hours. At the end there was applause, long, sincere applause. The skeptics had become admirers. The critics had become defenders. A journalist approached her afterward. "Claire, what would you say to people who still doubt you?" Claire thought for a moment. "That it's okay to doubt. Machines do it too. They test, they check, they confirm before they work. But once you see that it works, you have to believe. And I work. My talent works." The video of the demonstration went viral. Millions of views, comments in dozens of languages. Universities from other countries got in touch, wanting to know more about the project. Companies offered partnerships. Schools wanted to adopt the educational engine. Anthony Fisher watched his strategy crumble. The more he tried to tear Claire down, the more she rose. And now, with her project gaining international recognition, she was beyond his reach. But he had one last card to play. And it was the dirtiest of all. He hired a lawyer to file a petition questioning Connie's custody of Claire. He alleged that the mother was exploiting her daughter, forcing her to work, and exposing her to situations inappropriate for her age. He asked that custody be transferred to the state until the situation was clarified. When Connie received the notice, her world fell apart. To take her daughter away, to put Claire in a foster home, all because she was working hard to give her a better future. "They can't do this," she said to Robert, her hands shaking. "They can't take my daughter away from me." Robert read the notice with his lawyer. "It's an absurd allegation. It won't hold up. But it will cause a disruption. There will be hearings, evaluations, social workers visiting your home. What if they take her from me, even temporarily? I won't let that happen." But Robert knew this was the toughest fight yet, because it involved the Child Protective Services system. And that system, however well-intentioned, sometimes caused more harm than good. The first hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Connie had to hire a specialized lawyer. Robert covered the costs, but that didn't lessen Connie's anguish. The possibility of losing her daughter, even temporarily, terrified her. Claire noticed something was wrong. Her mother was tense, nervous, crying alone in her room. When she asked what was wrong, Connie tried to brush it off, but Claire insisted. "Mom, I know when you're lying. I've learned to read the signs. Tell me the truth." Connie couldn't hide it. She told her about the petition, about the possibility of being separated. Claire was silent for a long moment. Then she hugged her mother. They won't win. We're together. We've always been. And we always will be. But inside, Claire was scared. A real deep fear. The idea of being taken from her mother, of being put in a strange place with people she didn't know, horrified her. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that had happened. So much suffering, so many obstacles, and now this, the worst thing of all. Megan visited her the next day. She found Claire sitting on the floor of her room, her notebook open in her lap, but she wasn't drawing anything, just staring at the blank pages. "Claire, I'm tired, Megan. Tired of fighting, of hurting. Every time things get better, someone shows up to destroy everything. And now they want to take me away from my mom. Why? What did I do that was so wrong?" Megan sat beside her. "You didn't do anything wrong. You're incredible, special, and some people can't stand to see special people shine because it makes them feel small. But it's not fair." "No, it's not. But life isn't fair. You already know that. You lost your grandpa. You watched your mum work 3 jobs. You had to grow up too fast. But you know what else? You're strong. Stronger than anyone I know. And you're going to get through this too." Claire looked at Megan. "What if I can't? What if they take me away from my mum? Then we fight until we bring you back. My dad has money, he has lawyers, he has power. And he's not going to let this happen. I'm not going to let it happen." The two sat in silence. And in that moment, Claire understood something important. She wasn't alone. She had her mom, she had Robert, she had Megan. She had people who believed in her, who were fighting for her, and maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to win one more battle. The most important battle of all. The battle for the right to stay with the person she loved. The hearing took place on a grey August afternoon. The courthouse was cold, its white, impersonal walls giving it the feel of a hospital. Connie sat next to her lawyer, her hands sweating, her heart racing. Robert and Megan sat in the chairs behind them, offering silent support. Claire wasn't present. By law, children under 10 didn't have to attend these kinds of hearings. But she had asked to go. She wanted to be there. She wanted to look into the eyes of the people trying to separate her from her mother. But Connie wouldn't allow it. She didn't want to expose her daughter to that hostile environment. Anthony Fisher's lawyer, Mr. August Lewis, 45, entered the room with a briefcase full of documents. He greeted everyone with a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was known for being ruthless, for using any argument, any loophole, to win his cases. The judge, Judge Patricia Allen, 52, entered, and everyone rose. She was known for being fair but strict. She didn't tolerate dirty tricks, but she also didn't overlook genuine neglect when it came to child protection. Mr. Lewis began his argument. He painted a grim picture. He spoke of a child being exposed to high-pressure situations, of a mother who allowed her daughter to work since the age of 4, of a wealthy businessman using a poor girl as an advertisement for his businesses. He showed photos of the shop, the equipment, the viral videos. He argued that this was not a suitable environment for a child. "Your Honor, we are facing a clear case of child exploitation disguised as opportunity. Claire Davis is a 7-year-old child who should be playing, studying, being a kid, but instead she is being forced to work, to perform publicly, to carry responsibilities that are not appropriate for her age." Connie clenched her fists. Every word was a stab. She wasn't exploiting her daughter. She was protecting her. She was giving her opportunities. How dare they twist everything like this? Connie's lawyer, Mr. Fernando Costa, 48, countered. He presented school reports showing that Claire had excellent grades, psychological evaluations showing she was well-adjusted, happy and healthy, testimonies from teachers talking about how she was engaged, social and normal in every aspect except for her exceptional talent. The issue here is not exploitation, it's vocation. Claire is not forced to do anything. She loves what she does. It's her passion, and to deprive a child of her passion, especially when she has a talent for it, would be the real harm. The judge listened to both sides. She asked questions. She reviewed documents. And then she announced that she would need more time to decide. She ordered a social worker to visit Connie's home. She ordered a full psychological evaluation of Claire, and she maintained the status quo until she had all the information. It was a partial victory. Claire would not be removed, at least not yet, but the threat remained, and that was almost worse than a final decision. The uncertainty, the waiting, the constant fear. The social worker, Maria Silva, 35, visited the house the following week. She spent 3 hours talking with Connie, with Claire, observing the environment, asking questions. She was kind but professional. She took notes on everything. She asked Claire about her routine, about how she felt. If anyone forced her to do anything she didn't want to do. "No one forces me to do anything," Claire replied. "I fix things because I like it, because it's what I know how to do. My mom has always let me choose." "And wouldn't you like to do other things? Play? Have friends?" "I have friends, and I play, but for me, fixing things is like playing. It's fun. It's what makes me happy." Maria observed the girl. There was something genuine in her eyes. This was not a traumatized child. This was not a forced child. This was a child with a purpose, and that was a rare thing to see. Maria's report was positive. She concluded that Claire was in a healthy environment, had a strong relationship with her mother, and that her talent was being cultivated appropriately, without excessive pressure. She recommended that custody remain with Connie, but the psychological evaluation was still pending, and Mr. Lewis had other plans. He hired a private psychologist, Dr. Mario Fernandez, 50, known for providing favorable reports to the highest bidder. Dr. Fernandez would evaluate Claire and undoubtedly find signs of trauma, pressure, and psychological damage, even if they didn't exist. Robert discovered this through his investigator. "They're buying the report. They're going to make it look like Claire is being harmed. Can we stop it? We can question the psychologist's impartiality, request that another professional conduct the evaluation, but it will take time, and by then, the damage could be done. Then we act fast. We hire the best child psychologist we can find. We get an independent evaluation, and we present it before they present their fake report." That's what they did. Dr. Beatrice Carter, 42, one of the most respected child psychologists in the country, agreed to evaluate Claire. She spent 2 days with the girl. They talked, played, did tests and activities. Dr. Carter observed how Claire interacted with her mother, with Megan, with Robert, how she handled frustration, challenges, and pressure. Her report was clear. Claire was an exceptionally well-adjusted child given the circumstances. She had a healthy bond with her mother. She demonstrated a genuine passion for mechanics. There were no signs of trauma or exploitation. There was, however, a girl with extraordinary talent being guided by a dedicated mother. Dr. Carter's report was submitted before Dr. Fernandez's. When Mr. Lewis tried to present his report, the judge questioned him about the psychologist's impartiality. It was discovered that Dr. Fernandez had a history of questionable reports. The judge disregarded the document. It was a major blow to Anthony Fisher. His tactics were being exposed one by one, and he was getting desperate. At the final hearing 3 weeks later, the judge gave her decision. "After reviewing all documents, reports, and testimonies, I conclude that there is no basis to question Connie Davis's custody of her daughter Claire. The child is in a healthy environment, is being well cared for, and is having her emotional and educational needs met. The fact that she has an exceptional talent does not constitute exploitation, but rather the natural development of her abilities. I find the petition to be without merit. Case closed." Connie burst into tears. Robert hugged Megan. The lawyer smiled for the first time in weeks. They had won. Finally, after so much suffering, they had won. Mr. Lewis left the room without a word. Anthony Fisher, who was watching from a distance, punched a wall. He had lost in a humiliating way. And now, with all his tactics exposed, he was vulnerable. Robert wasted no time. He gathered all the evidence of illicit interference, the attempts to close the shop, the sabotage, the threats, the baseless custody petition, and he filed a lawsuit against Anthony Fisher for harassment, defamation, and abuse of power. The lawsuit gained media attention. Investigative journalists began digging into Anthony's past. They uncovered other similar cases, other people he had persecuted, other lives he had tried to destroy. The public pressure was immense. Anthony tried to defend himself, but every statement only made things worse. His allies began to distance themselves. Businessmen who supported him cut ties. Politicians who were his friends denied any knowledge of his actions. In a matter of weeks, Anthony Fisher went from a powerful figure to a persona non grata. His reputation was destroyed, his businesses suffered, and he was facing multiple lawsuits. Claire watched it all from a distance. She didn't feel joy at Anthony's downfall. She didn't feel vengeful. Only relief. Relief that finally she and her mother were safe. On the night of the court's decision, Claire sat with her notebook. She looked at the drawings, the projects, everything she had built during those turbulent months. There was so much there, so much suffering transformed into purpose. And then she drew one more thing, a final project, something special. It wasn't an engine, it wasn't a tool, it was a plan. A plan to create a free training program for low-income children interested in mechanics, a place where they could learn, grow, and develop their talents. She was drawing the future, not just hers, but for all the kids like her, kids with talent, with dreams, but without opportunities, and she was determined to make that future happen. 6 months after the court decision, life had changed completely. The shop was no longer just a shop. It was a nationally recognized training center. 15 children studied there on weekends, all from low-income communities. Claire, now 8, was the youngest teacher, but also the most patient. She taught with the same care her grandfather had used with her, with love, with dedication, with the certainty that every child there had something special to offer the world. The educational engine had been manufactured and distributed to 50 public schools across the state of New York. The project won a national award for educational innovation. Universities studied the model. Other states wanted to replicate it. Tech companies offered financial support. What began as a drawing in an old notebook had become a national movement. Robert had transformed. The arrogant man who had stalled in the middle of the street with a broken-down car no longer existed. He had learned to see value beyond money. He had learned that some things, the most important things, couldn't be bought, only earned, with patience, with dedication, with love. His company had implemented social programs inspired by Claire's project, and for the first time in years, he felt his work had a real purpose. Megan had decided to study mechanical engineering. Inspired by Claire, she wanted to work in technical education. She wanted to create programs that identified talent in vulnerable communities. The two of them, she and Claire, had become more than friends. They were sisters by choice, sisters of the heart. Connie had finally been able to quit one of her 3 jobs. The income from the shop, now officially incorporated with Connie as a managing partner, was enough to support the family with dignity. She had time. Time to be with her daughter, time to care for her father, time for herself, time to breathe. And in the quiet nights, she would look at everything they had achieved and cry. Not from sadness, from relief, from gratitude, from pure happiness. Claire's grandfather had improved significantly. The intensive physical therapy that Robert paid for had produced results. He still used a wheelchair, but he could speak more clearly, move his arms. And he spent every Saturday at the shop, watching his granddaughter teach, pride etched on his face. Anthony Fisher had lost everything. The investigation into his actions had revealed decades of corruption, extortion, and abuse of power. He was facing multiple criminal charges. His empire had crumbled, and he had no one to blame but himself. Carl, Claire's uncle, had tried to get back, in touch after everything improved, but Connie wanted nothing to do with him. Some bridges once burned shouldn't be rebuilt. He had made his choice. Now he had to live with the consequences. On a sunny February morning, Claire was in the shop preparing a lesson when a group of people walked in. They were representatives from the Department of Education. They had come to see the project in person. They wanted to propose a national expansion. "Claire, the work you're doing here is revolutionary," said the coordinator, Dr. Sylvia Morris, 50. We're proposing to create centers like this in every major city in the country, and we want you to be the ambassador for the project, to visit schools, train teachers, and inspire other children. Claire looked at her mother, at Robert, at Megan. They were there, supporting her, as they always had. She looked at her grandfather, who nodded, his eyes shining. I accept, but on one condition. What's that? That the project be named Grandpa Tony's Workshop, in honor of my grandpa, because he's the one who started it all. He's the one who taught me that machines talk, and that we just need to learn how to listen. Dr. Morris smiled. It's perfect. The Grandpa Tony's Workshop project was launched 3 months later. Training centers were opened in 12 major cities. Thousands of children benefited. And Claire traveled the country, telling her story, inspiring, teaching. Always with her old notebook under her arm, always with her calloused hands, always with a heart full of purpose. At one of the launch events in Chicago, a 6-year-old girl approached Claire. Her eyes were shining with admiration, and she held a similar notebook in her hands. I draw machines too, the girl said shyly, but nobody believes me. Claire knelt down to her level. Show me. The girl opened her notebook. The drawings were simple, childish, but they had something special. There was understanding there. There was developing talent. They're beautiful, Claire said. And you know what I'm going to tell you. It doesn't matter if people believe in you or not. What matters is that you believe. And if you believe, you keep drawing, you keep learning, you keep trying. Because one day, when you least expect it, someone will come along and see what you see, and they'll give you the chance you need. The little girl hugged Claire, and in that hug, Claire understood why she had gone through everything she had. It wasn't just about her. It never was. It was about opening doors. It was about being the gateway that other children could walk through. Robert watched the scene from a distance. He had tears in his eyes. He thought of the son he had lost. He thought of how the pain of that loss had almost destroyed him. But now he understood. The pain hadn't gone away. It never would. But it had been transformed. It had become fuel for something greater. He walked over to Connie, who was also watching with pride. Thank you, he said. For what? For letting me be a part of this. For trusting me. For giving me the chance to do something that really matters. Connie smiled. You're the one who gave us the chance. We're the ones who should be thanking you. No, the chance came from Claire. She's the one who stopped that day and offered to help. She's the one who had the courage to believe when no one else did. She's the one who changed everything. They both looked at the girl still, talking to the child from Chicago, explaining something about engines, her hands gesturing, her eyes shining in that special way they did when she talked about mechanics. That night, after all the events, Claire returned home. She was tired but happy. She sat on her bed with her notebook. She flipped through the pages. So many stories in there. So much pain. So much triumph. She reached the last page. It was blank, waiting. She picked up a pencil and began to write. Not drawings this time. Words. Her first letter. To all the kids who would come after her. If you're reading this, it's because someone gave you a chance, or because you're looking for one. And I want you to know, you deserve it. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what they've said about you. If you have a talent, if you have a dream, you deserve the chance to try. It's going to be hard. It's going to hurt. They'll doubt you. They'll try to stop you. But you don't give up. You keep going. One day at a time. One piece at a time. Until you build something great. Something no one can take away from you. And when you make it, remember to look back, to reach out your hand for the one coming after you. Because we don't win alone. We win together. Love, Claire Davis, 8 years old, mechanic. She closed the notebook, tucked it under her pillow and fell asleep. For the first time in a long time she slept without fear, without worry, only with gratitude. Gratitude for having survived, for having won, for having the chance to make a difference. Outside, the city slept. The shop was closed, waiting for the next day. The next customer. The next child who would walk through its doors and discover that talent has no social class. that dreams have no price tag, and that everyone, absolutely everyone, deserves a chance to shine. And as Claire slept, her grandfather in the bed in the next room looked out the window. He thought about his granddaughter, about the shop he had built so many years ago, about how it had all transformed into something bigger than he had ever imagined. He smiled, and for the first time since his stroke, he managed to say a complete, clear sentence without stumbling. "You did it, my girl, you did it." And in the silence of the night it was as if the machines answered, a soft murmur of distant engines, of turning gears, of dreams becoming reality. Because Claire was right. Machines talk. And when you learn to listen, they tell you the truth that anything is possible. When you have courage, when you have love, when you have people who believe in you. And Claire had all of that, and so much more.